Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out the third of the brand new wild packs from Mattel for the Dino Escape Jurassic World and obviously Camp Cretaceous toy line. However, there are actually four. I don't have the fourth quite yet. That would be the Herrerasaurus. I am hoping to acquire that one very soon, but I do have this one, and obviously we have reviewed the Dracorex and Zuniceratops here on the channel recently, so make sure you check those reviews out if you have not. And I do want to give a huge shout out to my good friend Hatbox Ghost, who was cool enough to acquire these for me and send them my way. He has always been helping me out since I met the guy. He's just an absolute wonderful friend, continuously helping me out, knowing that I get crapped on when it comes to Jurassic stuff in my area. Like, they're just scalped to the max. So it is awesome to have a friend like him always helping me out and hooking me up with some stuff that I otherwise would not find for quite some time. And again, this is probably about the 4 billionth repaint that we've had of the Dimorphodon from Mattel, but that's not to say that it's a bad thing, because the repaints of the Dimorphodons have actually always been really quite nice. Like, they don't often release a bad looking repaint of this figure, so I am definitely quite excited to take a look at it. And honestly, I didn't pay too much attention to the figure prior to this as far as like the promotional images and everything go, because we've had so many Dimorphodons. I wasn't all that interested in it. I was more interested in the others from this wave. So it's kind of like going in blind, and I am really excited to actually see what this one looks like when I do open it up. And it is always fun to add another Dimorphodon to the flock of Dimorphodon that I do already have. But here on the back, we can see the Herrerasaurus, and of course the Dimorphodon we are currently looking at, and the two figures that we have looked at previously, which would be the Zuniceratops and Dracorex in this wave of wild packs. So let's go ahead, break this out of the box, and take a look at the newest variant of the Dimorphodon. So here, and now if I knock him over actually, but if I reposition the camera, is our newest version of the Dimorphodon from Mattel. And it's definitely another fun release. It's nothing, again, to write home about, nothing to go crazy about and say, oh my god, my life is over if I can't get one. But it is definitely a really fun looking figure, and I really love one area of this figure, and this is actually, again, something that Mattel has done quite a bit with this wave of wild packs, and that is this really cool striping out here on the tail. Like, Mattel has really been loving the idea of including paint on the tails of this wave of wild packs, and I've been loving them for it, because anytime they add paint to the tails of any of their figures, it's a huge, huge plus on the part of the appeal factor of those figures. I feel like it just really makes them look so much better, and this striping effect out here on the tail just makes this easily one of the nicest looking Dimorphodons I think that Mattel has released so far. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look, and check out the entire Dimorphodon right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Dimorphodon, you can see straight away, again, it's the same sculpt that we've had prior to this. They haven't changed anything in the sculpts of any of these repaints of the wild packs compared to the attack packs, but what we can see is a really nice new paint job, and that's really all we need to take a look at on this figure. If you would like to see a more detailed review of the actual sculpt of the Dimorphodon, check out one of the many older reviews that I have up of it. So again, we really only need to take a look at what's new, which was this really cool paint application that we see here. So we see a nice lower jaw here sporting kind of like an off-white, but the coloration actually doesn't run down here onto the underside, which I feel like is a little bit strange. Probably would have looked a little nicer had we seen some of that white coloration there run into like the neck, or at least maybe even into the chest. But it still does give a really nice coloration there to the lower jaw and a hint of flashiness to that area. But up here in the face, you can see some nice variations of like a red and an orange, and they just kind of like design back and forth and mesh together pretty nicely. And then you also have like the brown primary body color kind of leaking in and out back and forth as well. And it definitely does make for a really interesting looking paint job here on the face. I actually really quite like it. Of course, we have an articulated jaw, which doesn't close all that well for some reason. It closes pretty well, but I also like that you see this orangish coloration just like stripes back here in the head, and then there's like orange from both sides that kind of stripe in too, and then they meet at the points of each of those colors right there. Definitely looks neat. You can also see that the eye is painted quite beautifully. Looks to be painted with a yellow and given a black pupil. very nice and precisely added to the face, so that is a plus. You can also see it over here. It also looks really good as far as the placement of the paint goes on the eye on this side, but also the orange and reddish colors look really cool. And then on the inside of the mouth, you can see a really nice coloration there for the tongue. Beautiful gloss coat as it shines quite realistically. We don't have any paint here on the inside of the mouth on the upper jaw, but definitely some nice paint here on the lower jaw. And of course the teeth are painted as well, and they are given kind of like an off-white, almost bordering on like a yellow. So they definitely look a lot more realistic than if they were just a really bright white. Very nice color choices on the part of Mattel. If we take a look here at the underside of the wing, you have kind of like a light brownish type of a color, as well as actually the Jurassic Facts app. If you would like to add this to your collection, we've got the code right there. But as you lead out into the tips of the wings, it transitions to that same very dark brown that you see elsewhere on the figure. So that looks pretty cool to have that alternate coloration here on the underside of the wings, but on the top of the wings we really have nothing but this dark brown, except for there is actually like a black speckling, which Mattel usually includes a speckling on their figures, and we do have a black speckling on this one. And then you can also see as you run down the course of the back that we have some more of that kind of like orangish brown striping, which looks really neat. It's actually yeah, that's the same color, so it's like an orangish brown here on the underside, but you can also see that here up here on the back, and it stripes along the spinal column of our Dimorphodon. And then when we lead back out here to the tail, we have more of those stripes out here. Again, what I was talking about at the beginning of the review, just giving a really nice flashy look to the end of the tail right there, which I really love. I absolutely adore the fact that they've been adding so much paint application onto the tails of their figures. And you have more of that speckling and stuff you can see right here running throughout the course of the figure. Looks like we actually have some like extra glue or something right there. But again, the Dimorphodon is definitely a really nice figure. It's a totally overused sculpt and release on the part of Mattel because we've just had so many, but I honestly feel like this is one of the nicest ones that they've released so far, and having just a little extra paint application like out there on the tail, up there on the back and stuff, and all this really nice paint here on the face, it definitely looks really cool. So as usual, when it comes to a Mattel figure, we've got some nice articulation. So we do have the articulated jaw, which doesn't close perfectly, but it works pretty smoothly otherwise. And then you also have articulation in the neck, so we can go up or down however you would like. And we can also turn it a little bit like this, so there's almost like a swivel type effect to the neck area of our Dimorphodon. And of course we can articulate the wings, so we can go forward, back, up, down, however you would like to term that. And you can also swivel the wings if you would really like to. Don't know why you would want to do that. But then you also have articulation in the legs. Now both of the legs articulate together. You can individually articulate them. But what's cool about that is you can give the Dimorphodon kind of like a standing pose. You can give it like the pose like it's flying in. If you put the head down, leave the mouth open, it looks like it's flying in and like landing or grabbing something like that. Or you can just straight up put the legs back so that it has like a soaring type of a look. So you really can pull off any pose you would like due to the really nice articulation in the figure. And then the tail isn't exactly articulated, but it's super flexible, so you can bend it pretty much anywhere. So some absolutely awesome articulation like you always find in the Mattel Dimorphodon. As far as a size goes, for a wingspan you are looking at, if we go from one tip to the other tip, about 8 3/4 inches, roughly, maybe 8.5. It's tough to truly tell. Somewhere in that vicinity, or about 21.5, closing in at 22 centimeters. And then for a length of the body from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 5 1/4 inches, or around the 13.5, 14 centimeter range. For a size comparison, here are our three amigos with the Papo Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line in comparison to our Dimorphodon right here. And maybe if we turn it to the side, we can get a better idea of the size. But honestly, if you're a fan of the Mattel Jurassic World toy line and you've been following the line for quite some time, you will obviously also already know the size of the Dimorphodon, because at this point I would like to think that you've either at least seen one in person or purchased one, because there's been so many. So you should already have a pretty good idea, as this one has not differed in the sculpt or size or anything like that at all. It's still the exact same figure, just with new paint. But if you have not seen it somehow in some crazy way, hopefully these figures will help you out with a comparison. And just because, why not? Here are the other two Wild Pack figures in this line with our Dimorphodon, as we have the Zuniceratops and Dracorex as well. There is also the Herrerasaurus, but again, I don't have that one quite yet to review, so when we do get that one, we'll of course check that one out. But as far as a comparison goes with each of these figures together, all three look really nice and honestly are potentially the best. Of course, the Zuniceratops has had one release, so this is obviously the best that one has looked, but I would say the Dimorphodon and Dracorex might be the best that those two have looked also. So as far as this Mattel Jurassic World Dino Escape Wild Pack Dimorphodon goes, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's definitely a beautiful release from Mattel as far as their Dimorphodons go. The sculpt is really nice, very screen accurate to how the Dimorphodon looks in both Jurassic World and even Camp Cretaceous, so the sculpt has always been really well done, and that's not something I ever doubt when it comes to Mattel, and that's their ability to sculpt out a gorgeous figure. They always give us a really beautiful sculpt. But the paint job on this one is probably the nicest, or at least very close to the nicest, that the Dimorphodon has actually looked so far. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the tones of color used are really nice, and I absolutely love that striping out there on the tail. It just looks super, super nice. The coloration isn't anything that's overly flashy. I feel like it's a nice natural look for a Dimorphodon, and I feel like the tones of color on the figure are really appealing to the eye on top of looking natural, so it definitely gives off a very nice realistic feel overall as far as the paint scheme and paint application goes. And all of the paint seems to be applied really quite nicely, quite naturally overall, so that is of course a huge plus as well. And then we have some beautiful articulation in the Dimorphodon, which is something that we always do have in our Mattel Dimorphodon figures. And with all of that combined, you have yourself possibly the nicest Dimorphodon that Mattel has released so far, which is really cool because going into this review, I wasn't expecting much, and I honestly didn't really even recall what the paint scheme looked like, so it was nice to have such a nice looking paint scheme that I was kind of going into blind almost, with not paying too much attention to this one prior to this, and it turns out it's actually really well done. So if you are interested in this was actually found in Kroger by my good buddy Hatbox Ghost, who I am again super thankful for his friendship and his kind heart of searching these out for me and sending them over, allowing me an opportunity to not only have them in my collection, but also review them for you guys. And again, if you have a Kroger near you, make sure you check Kroger out to buy these, because I don't know if Target or Walmart has actually started to stock them yet. I haven't heard of anybody finding them there. I'm sure they will eventually, but my area is really bad as far as like attack packs and now wild packs in general, so it's always been pretty bad here as far as this type of figure goes, so I'm super happy that he was able to help me out in acquiring these. So again, thank you so much to my good buddy Hatbox Ghost for all three of these newest Wild Pack figures, and make sure you check your local Kroger or even Walmart and Target potentially soon and pick this up if you do in fact find it. But otherwise, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.